Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. So following on from a series that I did called Finish the 96, where I went through all of the figures that Hasbro still need to release from the original Kenner line, I've decided to do a new series called Finish the Scene. And basically this is where I go through a scene from Star Wars where we've got quite a few of the figures and let you know where you need to get those figures from. Some of them will be in the vintage collection, some won't, some will still need to be released in the vintage collection and updated and things like that. Now in front of you here you can see that I do have the vintage collection skiff. This is the Prisoner Skiff and I have all of the figures except two. Now this is a great day because I've been after this figure for so long, and at last I do have Weequay. Now look at the state of that figure. It's a really yellowed bubble. The card's all sun damaged. We've got some damage around the hanger tab there. So this is 100% an opener, and I'm very glad to get this at last, so now I can have my Weequay standing there. But of course there is another character missing as well, which we will come on to later. But I just want to go through them in order and let you know which is the best figure to get. And if you can't afford one that's like a really expensive figure on the secondary market, there might be some alternatives that you can go to. Alright then, so before we get started, if you do happen to enjoy the video and the series, please drop a like down below because it does really help the video. And let's get started. So first of all, let's start off with Luke Skywalker himself. He is standing there on the plank there, ready to be pushed into the Sarlacc pit. Now that Luke Skywalker that I have there is actually from the 3.75 inch Black series, and that's probably the cheapest possible way that you're going to be able to get that figure. He was repacked into the vintage collection. He was VC 87 and he came with a cloak and everything like that. But if you take all those bits off, get rid of all his accessories, you're left with a pretty good sort of Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker for the skiff. Of course, we have got a brand new Luke Skywalker that came out. I believe he is VC 175. He might still be affordable, and it's basically pretty much that figure with an updated head, but this one's slightly more accurate because it does have the brown hair, but obviously the face and head sculpt is nowhere near as good. But this is the one that I use for the Prisoner Skiff. Next up we have Han Solo here. Now this is the Han Solo once again from the 3.75 inch Black series, and that is probably going to be the cheapest way that you can get this figure. He was repacked in the vintage collection. He was part of the Jabba the Hutt playset, and he was in there packed in on a card with re-ease. So a lot of people didn't really want to open him. So if you want an opener, once again, 3.75 inch Black series. The face isn't as good, doesn't have the photo reel, but it's a good stand-in for this scene. Next up, I have Chewbacca, or Chewbacca, depending on where you're from. Now, you could use the one from the vintage collection, which is VC 141, but that one isn't really accurate because that is from A New Hope, where he's got his slick-backed hair. You can get a Return of the Jedi version of Chewbacca in the 3.75 inch Black series, and that one is a bit more accurate. However, I much prefer this one here, because this is the Sandstorm deleted scenes version from the Legacy collection. And you'll see here that he has that real windswept hair look, which I really love, and I think it goes well with this. The only problem with this figure is that he has the bandage on the leg. So basically he's already been shot on the leg, he's already been bandaged up, and it's just before they get onto the Millennium Falcon in the deleted scene. But when you put him there, you can't really see the bandage, and he looks absolutely perfect for this scene. Next up is Kithaba, or Kithaba, however you want to pronounce that. He is VC 56. I have this one here. You'll see the one that I opened has the black or blue bandana, and basically he is the cheaper of the two variants. The one with the red bandana is a bit more expensive, but that is the one that's a bit more accurate to the scene. So unfortunately I do have the one with the wrong coloured bandana, but I really don't care at that point because he is really expensive on the secondary market. I doubt you're going to pick him up for much less than like £100, maybe $120, something like that. Really expensive figure. Will Hasbro re-release that one in the future? I think they probably will because it is such a great figure. It's from Return of the Jedi, maybe next year when the Return of the Jedi anniversary comes along. And of course, that species has now been in things like the Book of Boba Fett and things like that. So hopefully they will re-release that figure. Next up, we have the Weequay Skiff Master. Now this figure eluded me for absolutely ages. He is VC 48, and I managed to pick this guy up from Tungori because essentially if you want that guy on a card back or loose, he is extremely expensive. I do believe that Tungori still have some left. I bought a couple, one for myself, one for my son, and I was so glad to finally get that figure because I do have him carded, but of course you don't really want to open up your only carded sample. when they're so expensive. Next up we have Lando Calrissian in his skiff guard disguise. I absolutely love this figure. This was one of my favourite figures as a kid in the original vintage Kenner line, and there he is looking awesome. Just take his helmet off, he looks great. Fantastic figure. VC144, you should be able to pick this one up really easy if you haven't got it already. He was an exclusive, I believe, maybe to Walmart or Target, but there was loads of him around and he's still pretty easy to get. Now finally, out of all the figures that I actually have set up at the moment, we have Verdane Vc 152. He actually came out in that Skiff Guard 3-pack, so quite difficult to get by himself, but people do split that pack, and eventually that pack became quite easy to get. So I think you may even still be able to pick up that pack close to retail price. So maybe for a Verdane you're looking at maybe $20, $25, hopefully. That's what I think anyway. And he's a really good figure. You need him because obviously he's the pilot of the skiff. Now before we get on to completing the scene of all the figures that I have that are available to get for this, we do need to talk about the missing figure that, as far as I know, has never actually been made into a figure, at least in not super articulation, but I'm pretty sure he's never been made. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. We of course are talking about Velkin Tazeri, and this is a must-have figure now for Hasbro to do. Okay, it's a very background character. He's only in this scene, but essentially if you're going to have this set up, then you do need to finish the scene, and we need Velkin Tazeri to finish the scene. So he's like the human skiff guard. If I remember, I will throw a picture up onto the screen somewhere. So that's it for all of the ones that we've got set up there to complete the scene. Now, of course, this skiff does have a few other characters that jump on board. First of all, we have Boba Fett, and we have a brand new, amazing Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, which is absolutely perfect for this scene. VC186, you should have no problem whatsoever getting your hands on this figure. And of course, he jumped in and had a little scrap on that skiff, so he is part of this scene. Also, when Luke Skywalker rescues Princess Leia, they swing down onto this skiff. So if you do need a slave Leia, unfortunately, they are serious money on the secondary market. However, there is an alternative, and this is what I did. So this figure here is actually the Leia Sandstorm figure. So when you take off all of the sort of poncho and everything from the Sandstorm figure, you are left with slave Leia, essentially. I've got her in the position there of sitting on Jabba's throne because she sits on my barge, but that is probably a cheaper way to get it, although Leia Sandstorm is becoming expensive herself. There is also a Legacy Collection version where you have removable legs, so you can have her in this sort of pose sitting on the throne, or also you can have her standing up. But that figure is probably even more expensive than the Vintage Collection one. It is crazy price. But I think the best way to get this figure is the Leia Sandstorm, as I did. And I think this one even might be a Tungori, I don't know. But that was the cheapest way to get her anyway. And finally, to complete my scene without Velkin Tazeri, we have Weequay. This is the classic Weequay that you could get in the original Kenner line as well. What a fantastic figure that is. Really good. So pleased to finally have him loose. And I'm just going to place him up there in a second. Such a great figure. Really pleased to have him in my collection at last. And of course, you know, I can finally have him there to complete the scene, albeit without Velkin Tazeri. Now, I think I'm going to take his blaster, his Palace blaster, out of his hand, and I'm going to have him holding his, vibro blade, vibro axe, whatever you want to call it. So let's plonk him up there then. And there we go. We now have both Weequays on the skiff, on the Prisoner Skiff. Fantastic. It looks a lot better now. I've waited so long to get that figure, and I finally got him in my collection loose. Thank heavens for that. So there you go then, guys. That is how you can complete your skiff setup. Now, of course, in that scene, there is another skiff, but we have got far less figures to complete that skiff. And also, there's lots of other characters on the barge as well. But to be honest, that video would take far too long. So there you go then. Just for the purposes of this video, this is the Prisoner Skiff at the Sarlacc Pit, Battle of Carkoon. And it looks complete, except, as I mentioned, Velkin Tazeri. So come on, Hasbro. Make that figure. Alright then, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have managed to complete the skiff like I have. I now have all of the characters available for the skiff, so I'm really happy with that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members, and we shall see you on the next one.